But I'll put this to you. She was back in bed all right when she was found. Remember, I'm taking your word now for this idea of yours. I'll go as far as to say that she didn't weigh a whole lot, and she could have been lifted back easily enough. But I'm saying this too, that wasn't done without leaving any marks. I'll go so far as to say that whoever did it would have been smeared with blood from head to foot. It isn't pleasant, but it's a fact. Herbert agreed grimly. I've never doubted that, myself. Of course blood washes off. The inspector eyed him. What do you mean by that? We examined every inch of this house, and if anyone left it in that condition he wouldn't have got 100 yards. Unless, look here, Dean. He lowered his voice. I suppose somebody in this house could have stripped Mother naked and done it? This Margaret, by the Lord Harry, Dean. She was taking a shower when the other one called her. Getting ready to take a shower. That's not quite the same thing. We've only her word for that, and I haven't been any too sure of her right along. And then and there, and with some considerable excitement, he told Herbert Dean of the Daltons' strange excursion to the woodshed that Thursday night, and of the anonymous letter. There's your motive, he finished triumphantly. She and Dalton were about to hop it, and of course they needed money. Probably Emily knew or suspected, and so she had to be put out of the way. It even explains the axe. She could get it in any night and nobody would be the wiser. Precisely, said Herbert. That's one of the reasons why I know she didn't do it. You see, the axe wasn't brought in that way, Inspector. It was tied to a cord and brought in through an upper window. I'll not explain that now, but you can take it as a fact. The hell you say. And before anyone does any more cleaning around here, Herbert added smoothly, I'd see if there's print on that bell over the bed, and compare it with the ones on top of the chest. I think you'll find them the same. And I suppose you know that, too. I can only guess. I think you'll find that both are Mrs. Lancaster's. It was then that George Talbot tapped warningly at the door, and the two men slipped down the back staircase as the nurse came up by the main one. The inspector was upset and uncomfortable. The two men had some coffee in the kitchen, but he was taciturn and annoyed. He asked only one question, and he brought that out of a brooding silence. Then where is the bird cage in all this? He inquired. And what's the big idea as to Louisa Hall next door? Why try to bump her off? What's more, how? I've got 2 operatives on the Dalton house next door, good men too, and they don't see or hear a thing until she screams. It isn't natural, Dean. It's not so hard, Inspector. Take someone who knows every foot of these grounds and every house, as all these people do, and it's not as difficult as it sounds. But the Hall house was locked too. The mother states that positively. She went over it herself. Not all night. The kitchen door was open for an hour or so, earlier in the night. The inspector actually dropped his cup. How do you know a thing like that? I watched Lou Hall open it. And although he explained, the inspector continued to eye him grimly. Damn it all, Dean, he said at last, I believe in my soul that you're the criminal yourself. It was 4 in the morning when he finally departed in the police car which, with its uniformed driver, had been waiting patiently all the time. And at 4:45 any interested observer could have seen a tall man in dark trousers, sneakers and a pullover sweater, sitting in the August dawn beside a pile of ashes out in no man's land, and carefully combing them over with his fingers. By 6 o'clock he had finished. No one was about except the operative at the rear of the Dalton house, who was watching him with fascinated interest. The tall man got up, stuck an old envelope into his trousers pocket, and carrying something warily in his hand, padded on noiseless feet to the Wellington house.